Hey everyone, welcome to my mini-series on how to make production materials for competitive Smash Brothers content on YouTube and Twitch. In this video, I'll be showing you the process of making a simple YouTube thumbnail for your uploaded Smash Brothers videos. Now mind you, when we reach the tutorial portion, you're going to need a copy of Adobe Photoshop like CS6 or Creative Cloud, as that is the software we'll be using to design the match thumbnails. Before we do that, it's very important that we briefly go over some basic concepts and guidelines that generally come with making YouTube thumbnails of streamed Smash Brothers matches. Your YouTube thumbnail is the window that allows viewers to make predictions about whether or not your video is worth watching or not. With this in mind, there are really two aspects you need to care about when making a thumbnail: information transmission, what kind of information is being conveyed to the viewer, and aesthetics, which asks questions like, how is that information being conveyed? Is that information being conveyed correctly? Is the thumbnail visually pleasing and professional? And does the thumbnail incite curiosity about the content in the video? In this situation, form follows function. So for the time being, we're going to focus on what kind of information is typically portrayed in a competitive Smash Brothers thumbnail. For someone new to making thumbnails, the best way to get an idea on how to format your thumbnail is perhaps to study the thumbnails of other popular channels that show Smash Brothers content. The following is an example of a thumbnail from one of VG Bootcamp's uploads. For a lot of people, this will be the basic look for how a thumbnail ought to look. While your thumbnail doesn't have to look like this, in fact, I encourage you to come up with something original and creative. This template contains some of the basic guidelines that we are looking for in terms of conveying certain kinds of important information. A YouTube thumbnail is formatted to present 6 kinds of information: gamer tags, player characters, tournament rounds / game types, what game is being played, the event name, and the date. Having gamer tags in your thumbnail lets the viewer know which persons are competing in that particular video. Having player characters in the thumbnail tells the viewer which characters are being played in that particular video. To a certain extent, player characters in the thumbnail also serve as the thumbnail subject, kind of like characters in a movie poster, or yourself in your high school yearbook picture. For the section on tournament round and game type, this information details what type of match is being played in the video. Is it a particular round in a tournament, such as grand finals or losers semis? Or is it a side match / event, such as a friendly, money match, or crew battle? The game section tells the viewer what iteration of Smash is being played, whether it is Melee, Smash 4, or otherwise. The event name tells the viewer what event is being covered in the video. Major examples would be large tournaments like EVO, Apex, or Big House. Could also be the name of a group's weekly or bi-weekly tournament, such as VG Bootcamp's Smash at Xanadu, or Windy City Smash's Wave Dash Wednesdays. The last piece of information is the date. It's pretty self-explanatory. It shows the viewers the date in which the particular match took place. Here is another example of a match thumbnail, this time by Tourney Locator. They too present the same 6 kinds of information shown in the VG Bootcamp thumbnail, with the exception of the date, which in my opinion is the least important piece of information to include on a thumbnail, as it can easily be put into the video's title. As stated in the beginning, these are guidelines, not principles. I'm not suggesting that you make a thumbnail that's a complete knockoff of VG Bootcamp or Tourney Locator or whatever. You're allowed to break or tweak these guidelines a bit, as long as you break or tweak them with intelligence. Lastly, when thinking of a specific color scheme or theme for your thumbnail, it's best to make sure that your thumbnail aligns with your event's particular brand. To learn more about branding in terms of designing production materials, click on the video in the box. In conclusion, reviewing other channels' thumbnails, as well as taking the time to think about your own brand, should give you a general idea on what kind of thumbnail you'd like to design. However, that's enough ideology for now. Let's move on to looking at some techniques for making a Smash Brothers thumbnail in Photoshop. Alright, welcome back everyone to part 2 of my how to make a Smash Brothers thumbnail for YouTube. In this part of the video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a thumbnail in Photoshop as well as how to upload it to YouTube. So first off, we're not going to be making something overly complicated. We're going to be making a thumbnail reminiscent of this Wave Dash Wednesday thumbnail. So as you can see, it is very simple. It really doesn't have anything crazy going on in the background. It's just blue and has the player characters and has the 6 forms of information that we talked about early on in the video, along with a little bit of extra stuff like this Wave Dash Wednesday or the Windy City Smash insignia and the EXP Gaming Lounge. But it's really not that hard to make. We're not going to be making something that's perfectly like this. We're not going to be recreating this. But we're going to be making something that's along the same vein as this. And I'm going to be showing you some tips and tricks on like how to make these sort of aspects of the thumbnail that you can use to make something more complicated in the future. So first off, before we get started with even opening up Photoshop, first thing we got to do is we got to get a little bit organized. So right now we're going to create a new folder. And for you, you might want to put this folder somewhere like Documents, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to put this folder on my desktop. And I'm going to call this folder Smash Stream Stuff. And we're going to open up that folder, and we're going to make another folder, and we're going to call it Character Renders. And this sounds pretty much exactly what it is. This is going to be the place where we place renders, which are these sort of character sprites that are on the thumbnail. We're going to look for these on the internet and we're going to put them into this folder, and this is where they're going to be stored. And the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to put down streamed matches. Now in order to make sense of this, I'm actually going to bring up my actual folder that I use whenever for our particular biweeklies at Indiana University. So I'm going to go to my documents, and as you can see, here's all my folders, and over here you've got stream matches. And as you can see, I organize my folders according to date, and each of these dates were the dates of our particular biweeklies. So if you click on this one, the most recent one was April 25th, 2015. You've got like a list of different thumbnails right here. So this is what we're doing when we create this new folders. We're doing pretty much what I'm doing right here is we're just making a date, and then these are the thumbnails for that particular date, for that particular biweekly, streamed biweekly. So we're going to go back to our other folder, the folder we made on a desktop. And for the sake of this video, I'm just going to say hypothetically today is a biweekly and I'm working on thumbnails, so right now it's July 4th. Hey, happy Independence Day everybody. And there we go. So now that we're moderately organized, it could get a little bit better, but for the sake of making thumbnails, this is probably as far as we need to do. We're actually going to go onto the internet and look for our character renders. So you can go on Google or Bing or whatever. I'm going to go on Google. And in order to find character renders, it's actually really simple. A little bit simpler than I had known when I first started. And you literally type in the game that you're trying to, which Smash game you're talking about. So in this case, let's say we're making a Melee thumbnail. We're going to type in Melee. And we're going to type in a character. Let's say Fox, because, you know, Fox is pretty much used all the time. And we're going to type in render. It's actually pretty straightforward. And we're going to go over and we're going to click on images. And you have a whole bunch of images that show up and you're like, okay, well, okay, how do I know that any of these images are usable and which ones aren't? So we're going to click on this first one. And you can't really tell because it's got like white around it, but you're not really sure if the white is transparent or if it's not transparent. Usually one way to figure it out is to look and see if it's a PNG or a JPEG or what kind of codec the image is being saved in. And in this case, actually I'm going to go back because I don't usually use Google. I'm going to use Bing because Bing is a little bit easier to figure out what codecs are for each image. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do Melee Fox and render. Get a little bit more comfortable for myself. Alright, we're going to redo it right there. So we have the same, pretty much the same pictures as soon as it wants to load up. So you got the same picture again, but now it actually tells me what kind of thing it is. So right now it says PNG on the bottom, and that indicates to me, it has also what you saw as the white went away and became black. That's how you know that usually that the image is a transparent and not just an image that has a background in it. So as you can see, the image is transparent, and what that basically means is only the outlines, only the actual image of Fox is visible. So places where it's black, such as like this little area of his hands or this little area where his arms are, that stuff's transparent, that stuff's see-through. So if we put this onto our Photoshop file, the image that we're trying to create later, it will be, only Fox will be visible and there won't be any extraneous background stuff. And just to help you guys out, like I said, you don't want to get something like a JPEG, because JPEGs don't, as far as I understand, JPEGs don't have the capacity to have transparencies. So usually if you're looking for character renders on the internet, if you want something that's transparent and you don't want to make it yourself, usually go on the internet and look for something that says PNG on it, like down here, or look for something that says Adobe Fireworks PNG, because usually those things are without a doubt going to be transparent, and they're usually made by someone, and they're usually pretty high quality. So that's usually, those are your safe bet, is usually PNG. So for the sake of this video, we're just going to click on this Fox because it is a PNG, a transparent, and it's relatively big. It's a relatively big image. So we're going to click on it, and we're going to save the image to our character renders folder. Which is, I've got a lot of folders that say smashing, streaming, and stuff on it. So there you go, we found it. And we're gonna also name this Fox Melee Fox, just to make things easy for ourselves, because we're gonna have a lot of you're gonna have a lot of different characters, especially if you do thumbnails for Smash 4. So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get another character, because while it'd be normal to have two Foxes, that'd be boring. So we're gonna do another. We're gonna choose another character. So we're gonna say Link Melee Render, you know, because low tiers are cool. So let's get a Link. And with the same thing as we did with Fox, we're gonna look for a Link that's gonna be relatively large picture, and like you said, it's a PD and PNG. So this is looking like something that will most likely be transparent. And let's see if it is. Hopefully the white will go away. There you go. Yeah, so this is also a transparent image that is usable. So I'm going to also save this image and put it to my character renders folder. So now that we did that, and also just so you know, you're not just going to get two characters naturally. If you are playing a game like Melee or better yet Smash 4, in the future it's probably going to be better off if you go around looking for renders of every single character. That way you just have access to it and you can just upload it to Photoshop and you don't have to go searching for it every single time. Like I said, if you get a lot done, if you get organized early on, it'll make your life a whole lot easier making these thumbnails down the road. So now that we have the character renders, we're going to open up Photoshop, and we're actually going to move away from this. We are not making this image. We are making something more simple. So we're going to go over to File, and we're going to choose New, and we're going to call this thumbnail thumbnail simple. And its width is going to be 480, and its height is going to be 720. And you can kind of choose whether or not you want it to be white or transparent. I prefer transparent. And part of the reason we're going to make the width and the height so little is because YouTube thumbnails typically aren't that big. So there's no reason making it, you know, 1920 by 1080, because why? You know, it's like thumbnails aren't that large. And the images that you're going to use, like this Wario or this Sheik, they're probably not going to be big enough. They're probably going to be small. So it's better to use a small image with bigger character sprites. That way the quality, you don't have to mess with the quality by making it bigger or whatever. So we're going to press OK once we have these stats, and it creates a new thing right here. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go up to the layer area up here, and we're going to make a new layer. And next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over to the brush tool, or we're going to click on it. It's over here in the left area, left side. And we're going to go and I'm going to use this blue, but you can choose whatever color you want. But you go over the color picker and choose a color that you like. I'm just going to stick with blue. And we're going to color it in. Now, as you can see, if you look over here in the right side, over by the layer, the way that Photoshop works is a layered system. So as I colored over this, only layer 2 got colored over. Layer 1 is still transparent. So if I come over here and I color layer 1 white, only layer 1 is white while layer 2 is still blue. So if I put layer 2 on top, layer 2 is going to be visible. So it's almost like you're putting things in front and behind each other, and that's kind of how people make images in Photoshop. So you want to keep that in mind if you're not used to using Photoshop. And actually, if you're looking at this video and you're not used to Photoshop, you should probably go on YouTube and look up a basic Photoshop video, because I'm probably not gonna go over it a whole lot. Sorry. So anyway, from here we're also going to add something that we call a vignette. And what it does is it puts a little bit of a shadow around the edges of your image. And what it does is it draws the viewer's attention toward the center of the image and not so much at the edges, because usually in images the center of the image is where the subject and where the important stuff is. So we're going to go over to filter, which is at the top, and we're going to click on lens correction. And there's a lot of stuff going on here. It's a completely different window, but over here by auto correction we're going to go click on custom, and down here you say vignette, and I'm going to hope to God that that's actually how you say it. That's how my professor said it, even though it's spelled vignette. I'm going to say it's vignette. So we can pull it down, the amount, and as you can see, the image, there's more, it's darker on the edges. And it just looks better. It just looks more dynamic. It isn't just this kind of standard blue. It makes the image look a little bit cooler. So you're going to bring it down to about like 50. Maybe make the midpoint a little, make the midpoint a little smaller too. Yeah, we'll bring that about 25. And we'll press OK. So it's really subtle, but it changes the feel of the image a whole lot. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to make name tags for where the gamer tags are going to go. So we're going to make a new layer, and we're going to call this one name tag left, because it's going to be on the left side. So in order to make a name tag, we're going to go over to the pen tool, which is on the left side down here, the one that kind of looks like the edge of a pen. I don't know how many pens look like this in real life anymore, but you know. And we're going to hold down the shift key, and we're going to click outside of the image a little bit, and then we're going to come all the way kind of not in the middle, but a little close to the middle, and still holding the shift key, we're going to click left click. And because what the shift key does is it makes sure that your lines are straight, because if you don't hold the shift key, I start doing things like this, but if I hold the shift key down, the lines get to stay straight, or straight up and down. They're 90-degree angles and stuff like that, but we don't want to do that. So I'm going to go back a little bit to this first anchor point. There we go. And once we're here, I'm going to let go of the shift key, and I'm going to make a slight slant like that. And I'm going to hold the shift key again, click here, and I'm going to complete the circle, or the rhombus. I don't know, I'm not a math major, not geometry. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to click on the pen tool again. I don't know why I unclicked on it, and we're going to right click on the line, and we're going to choose make selection, and all this stuff pops up, but you don't need to worry about it, just press OK. So now what happened is now you've got these lines that are moving and stuff, and we are going to click on the brush tool again, and before we do anything we're going to change the white to the black. That way when we color over something it will be black. And basically what the make selection tool does is it creates this box, and if I try to color inside of this box, only the things in the box get colored over. So I'm holding down my left trigger, or my left key mouse pad, and I'm not coloring over in this blue area. I'm only coloring what's inside. So that's what's good about making selections, is it keeps you from making crazy mistakes. So now that that's happened, we're going to click on this rectangular marquee tool. We're going to right click and choose deselect to get rid of it. So now you've got this nice little name tag box without the little moving lines. So now that we have name tag left, we're going to come over to the layers and we're going to click on it, and we're going to right click and go to blending options. And from here we are going to go down to advanced blending in the blending options, and we're going to turn it down to about let's say about 60%. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the inner shadow. We're going to click on it, and we are going to actually change. We're going to turn off the global light, and we're going to change the angle to, let's make it like 60. Oops, let's go back. And what it does, as you can see, the inner shadow creates an inner shadow. It almost looks like a indentation in your image a little bit. So you can kind of fix it up a little bit, make it look how you want it to look. I think that looks kind of cool. Next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bevel, like that. It's like something that pushes it out, kind of gives it this sort of 3D feel, like the blue is in the background, and this sort of image right here is kind of more in the front a little bit. So we are going to take the bevel. I'm also going to turn off the global light here as well, and I'm also going to make the angle 60%. Let's say we make this highlight a little bit smaller. Okay, boom. So now we're done with that name tag. We have a right name tag to make, but it'd be crazy to go through that whole process again. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on name tag left, click on duplicate layer, rename it name tag right, press OK, and then on name tag right it's selected. We're going to go down to transform and flip horizontal. And we're going to choose the selection tool. You can also press V to, the move tool. Press V to make it that. So you're going to hold down shift and you're going to right click and you can move it. So it's the same deal as before. If I move up and down, the image isn't going to move up and down. It's just going to stay along this path. Kind of, I think it's parallel. I believe that's the term. So we're going to move it down and make it kind of look a little symmetrical to name tag left. Alright, cool. Actually what we're going to do is I'm actually going to move it up a little bit. So I'm going to move name tag right a little bit up. And I'm also going to move name tag left a little bit up. There we go. So now that we're here, we're actually going to go into the character renders folder. So I need to go all the way back here. And I'm going to take Fox and I'm just going to drag it down and then put it back here. And I'm going to let go. So right now this actually is okay, but I want Fox to be a little bit big. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold down the shift button and we're going to make Fox bigger. And once again, for the same reasons as shift before, if we don't hold the shift button, he gets all crazy shaped. So we want him to stay uniform. So we hold down shift and we can make him a little bit bigger or smaller and he stays uniform. So I'm going to make him kind of big, like that. And I'm going to click here and the prompt's going to show up. And I'm going to say place. Now as you can see, Fox is in front of the name tag. So in order to fix that, we're just going to take Fox and make him below name tag left. And like I said before, Photoshop works on a layer system. So because I put Melee Fox beneath name tag left, he's going to be behind the name tag. So just take that in mind if you're not used to Photoshop. So next we're going to go over to the character render again, and we're going to choose Link. And we're going to drag him down as well. Same deal, we're going to make him a little bit bigger. And for the sake of our video, this is good enough. And we're going to place it. And right now, as you can see, Fox kind of isn't looking at Link. And because usually matches are, it's a competitive game. you kind of want your thumbnail to reflect that. So we're going to go over to Fox, choose Edit, go to Transform, flip horizontal, and now Fox is looking at Link, and it's a little more confrontational and like they're about to fight. Another thing that would be this is more of a pro tip, is because you're not just going to be making one thumbnail in the future, you're going to be making like 6 hours worth of matches worth of thumbnails, depending on what level of what your weeklies, how many matches are in your weeklies. So one thing that I usually do is I take Melee Fox, and I would call this Melee Fox left, and then I would take this Fox and I would duplicate it, call it Melee Fox right. So now there's 2 foxes. You can't really tell, but there are 2. I'm going to go to Edit once again and flip horizontal, and I'm going to put this fox over here. I'm also going to turn him off because for the sake of this video we don't need him to be in the image. And I'm going to go to do the same thing for Link. I'm actually going to change his name from whatever his crazy name is to Melee Link. Right. But like I said, we're going to do the same thing for Link. We're going to duplicate him, or not delete him. We're going to duplicate him, call him Melee Link left, transform, horizontal, bring him over, hold shift down, bring him over, and then we're going to move him down by a fox. We're also going to turn him off. So basically what this does is in the future when you're making like a whole lot of thumbnails and it gets really tedious, let's say you have a situation where Fox is player 1, or whoever player 1 is playing Fox, and whoever's player 2 is playing Link, and they're playing in like winner's bracket or something, and this is how your thumbnail would look, like Fox player 1, Link player 2. But let's say for whatever reason they meet again in grand finals and it's the opposite, and Link's player 1 and Fox is player 2. Well, you're not going to want to have to go through this whole process over again. All you're going to have to do, if you do what I did earlier, all you have to do is turn this off, turn this on, turn this Link off, turn this Fox on, and making a whole lot of thumbnails becomes a whole lot easier just because you put in the effort early on to make these left and right versions of each character. And like I said, it's a pain in the butt to have to go through all this organization, but go through the pain in the butt a little bit earlier on, and it's going to save you a whole lot of time later on, because I know a lot of people who do these videos are probably kind of old. They might work, or they're probably in school, so you might not have a whole lot of time, so you just want to make things easier on yourself. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to put a name on these name tags. So we're going to choose the horizontal type tool, and hopefully it'll make its own layer, or maybe it won't. So we're going to make a layer, and we're going to call it name 1, or name, nope, we're going to call it name left. That's going to be where Link is. And we are going to click on it, and who plays Link? Sauce plays Link. Montreal, Link player Sauce, who beat the moon, which was pretty awesome. And as you can see, it's in black, and that's a mistake. So we're going to highlight it, and we're going to choose the color picker, and we're going to choose white, and boom, it's white. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to make another layer, and we're going to call this name right. Oops, yeah, we are going to call it name right. And we're going to say Leffen. There's a lot of Fox players. But we're going to say this one's Leffen. And we're going to try and make it a little bit in the middle. Like I said, you can do a little bit of you can fix it up a little bit more, but for the sake of the video, we're gonna do a kind of a crude and ugly kind of version in order to speed things up. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add the game type and the where it is in the tournament. So down here, it doesn't have to be down here, but for the sake of the video, once again, we're going to put it down here. We're going to say Melee Singles Winners Bracket. And as you can see, it's way too big, so we're just going to resize it to like 18, see what happens. Too small. We're going to make it, nope, too big. And that's just right. I feel like 3 little bears or something right now. So we're going to take it. I'm actually going to make this into Times New Roman, because this one's kind of a pain in the butt right now. So Times New Roman, and or not. There you go, Times New Roman, and we'll make it bigger again. Oop. So yeah, it'll probably be about 30 now. Okay. And as you can see, Link's pants are about the same color as the Melee Singles Winners Bracket font. So we're going to go into blending options by right-clicking on the text, clicking on the layer, Melee Singles Winners Bracket, go to blending options. We're going to type, or not type, we're going to click on stroke. And as you can see, there's like this black outline around the text. But you can change the stroke a little bit, so I'm going to make it 1 instead of 3 pixels, and maybe make it 2 pixels. And we're going to bring down the opacity a little bit to about like 70 or 60. Yeah, there we go. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the date and the name of the event/venue. Now, because I don't have like a cool image like the little belt from CEO or the little like ninja guy on fire for Paragon or like whatever, I'm just gonna type in WDW, which is Wave Dash Wednesday, because that's what we're basing this thumbnail off of, and I'm gonna say July 4th, 2015. And you're probably gonna put like a stroke around that too. And by clicking on the layer and do the same thing, put a stroke around it, make it look less ugly, reduce the opacity. There you go. Because you want things to be a little bit subtle. You don't want things to just be like, you don't want it to look like, well, bam, you know. Art is subtle, you know. Okay. Is there anything else we have to do? Oh, okay. So actually, right now, for the most part, we kind of have all the pieces of information. So as you can see, we have the player characters. So we got Link and Fox. We've got the name tags and the gamer tags, which is Sauce and Leffen. You've got Melee Singles Winners Bracket. So you're telling us what game it is, what game type it is, what tournament is it, like tournament round, is it a money match? You're saying what event it is, which is Wave Dash Wednesday, and you got the date. So this is kind of like all the information you really need. You can put like a versus symbol in the middle or something if you want. But yeah, this is a super crude and super simple thumbnail, but it kind of gets the job done because it has all the information that the viewer needs to decide, like, oh, I want to watch this Leffen video versus Sauce or whatever. But from here, you're going to want to make sure that, because YouTube thumbnails are smaller than this, than what we're seeing right now, you're going to want to make sure that at YouTube thumbnail size, it's still visible. So usually what I do is I go over here to the zoom tool. You can also press Z. And I'm going to hold down the Alt button to make it minimize instead of get bigger like so. And I usually bring it down to about 33%. So YouTube thumbnails, in my experience, are usually somewhere between 33%, as you can see down here, or 50%, which is this image. So if I can see it in 50%, and okay, so usually what I do is, if I can see it at 33% and I can clearly tell what's going on in the thumbnail, that means I've done my job. But as you can see, I didn't do my job. You can't really see if it's Melee Singles or Winners Bracket. So under these kind of circumstances, what I would usually do is I'd usually go and make this font bigger, or I'd do something about it, like I'd put a stroke around, make the stroke more predominant, or give it like a glow or something. So that's too big. So we're going to make it like 33, see what happens. Whoa, 333. So 33 should work. So yeah, I might go in and put like make the stroke a little bit more dominant. Make the opacity. Do the same thing for Wave Dash Wednesday. Maybe give it that stroke, make that stroke a little bit more dominant. And like I said, this is like, there's better ways, because this is still kind of, you don't just have to put stroke on it. You can give it like a glow, like an outer glow, or you can give it a drop shadow or something to make it a little bit more. But you want to do something to make the text stand out more. But for the sake of this video, we're just gonna say that because I can read it what it says at 33%, and I can really read what it says at 50%. So usually about here, you're pretty safe. You know your thumbnail is, for the most part, it's pretty safe. Plus, you also have this pretty much the same data is probably going to be on your YouTube's title, so you should be okay. But yeah, like I said, this is like a level 1 thumbnail. You don't have to you shouldn't really like stop at this point. You shouldn't just like make this thumbnail and say, "Oh, look at me, I'm really good because I made this thumbnail." This is just like a trainer with training wheel thumbnail in order to like help teach you the skills, like little basic things like how to make this little name tag, like how to use the pen tool, how to you put stroke around your text, how to get character renders and stuff in order to help you experiment and make something much better. So, for example, you can make lots of different kinds of thumbnails. So for example, we've got right here, I've got this thumbnail that I made, which is based more on VG Bootcamp, and it's got like a pattern in the background, and it makes use of blue, and it makes use of red, and it has the name tag's like a little bit different. You also have this other one that I made, which makes it kind of looks a lot like the other one, but it looks kind of like this one, and the one that we're working on kind of combined a little bit. We have this other thumbnail that I was working on that is, the theme is like a lot more random. It's more based around like theater or sort of Shakespearean plays or something, like, because, you know, whatever events might be have all sorts of crazy themes, you know, because it's Smash Brothers. Right here we have a thumbnail that I made for Full Bloom, which is a tournament that we made and that we had hosted in Indiana University on April 14th, 2015. And as you can see, it's still got the 6 forms of information that we talked about earlier, but the design's a little bit different. It has more of a digital design to it. But that's just because I put more work into it. So from here, actually, we're probably going to save it. And what I usually do is pictures. Okay, I usually save it in 2 different codecs, and codecs are basically just formats in which you can save a particular kind of media file. Where's my video? Smashing and streaming, smash streaming stuff. So let's go over here. So usually I save one of those codecs in which I save it is the TIFF. And a TIFF is useful because it's an image file, but you can also open it up in Photoshop, and it contains all of its layers. So you can open it up in Photoshop, and all these layers are still here. Whereas if you saved it as like a JPEG or a PNG, you would just have one layer, and it would be just the whole image. It wouldn't have all these layers, and you wouldn't be able to edit it or make changes to it. Whereas a TIFF image, you can. But unlike PNGs or JPEGs, TIFF images can't be uploaded to YouTube. So I can't use this to upload to YouTube. So I'd rather use this as like a safety measure in case I need to edit something. Like in case I made a mistake and I uploaded something to YouTube, I can go back to the TIFF file, make changes, save it as a PNG, and re-upload it. So in this case, I'm going to call it Sauce versus Leffen Melee Winners Bracket, so MWB. And then I'm going to save it again as a PNG. So once we've done that, we're actually going to go onto YouTube, and we're going to go onto your YouTube page or your group's YouTube page. And if you don't have access to your group's YouTube page, or you don't necessarily have one yet, you can just watch me and you don't have to do anything. So right now I'm actually logged on to my website, or onto my YouTube, so I'm going to go onto our, the IUB Smash YouTube as soon as my thing uploads. Alright, so here we go. Cool. So we're going to go to your Creator Studio. And we're going to go to click on your video section, or actually we're going to click on your video manager. And next, once it uploads, I got sorry about my slow internet. My Wi-Fi modem is on the other side of the house. So we're going to, so usually in order to change YouTube thumbnails on YouTube, we're going to click on the aforementioned video. So as you can tell, we don't have any videos of Sauce versus Leffen, and I don't think that video actually exists in life. So we're going to hypothetically say that this is that video, and we're going to click edit. And from here, the area that matters the most is these 4 images here. So the first 3 are thumbnails that are pre-created by YouTube, and basically just takes parts of your video and creates an image and sets it as a thumbnail. And these 3 thumbnails are usually really whack, they're not useful, and they're usually random. But the 4th thumbnail, or the 4th area, is usually a custom image section, which lets you upload an image of your creation and lets that serve as your thumbnail. So as you can see, this Winnie versus Miss thumbnail is something that I made, is something that I uploaded for the aforementioned video. But in order to change the thumbnail, you just click on it basically, and this little box will open up, and you go to your character or your stream match section. So I have to go to the Smash Streaming Stuff folder, and you choose the day, and you choose one of these 2, so this one's the PNG. So you're going to click on it, and you would press open, and you'd upload it. I'm not going to upload it because that would require me to re-upload this other one. But basically, this image would be replaced by the image that we were making, by this one. And then you'd pretty much be ready and set to go in terms of your thumbnail. One thing that I found earlier on that was freaking me out because I didn't understand how YouTube worked was that if you upload a thumbnail to a video, it won't immediately show up on your video instantaneously. It will probably take about 12 hours, like half a day or so, before YouTube replaces whatever thumbnail you had before with the new one that you made. So if you upload your, basically if you upload a thumbnail and you don't instantly see it, don't freak out. It just takes a little while, you know. But yeah. Like I said, this was basically a very simple YouTube thumbnail. There's not a whole lot going on artistically. It just gets the job done. And like I said, you probably shouldn't just make this thumbnail and just say, well, I did good enough, call it a day. You should take what I showed you, like using pen tool, how to put text down and put stroke around it. You should take the things that I showed you in this video and just experiment with Photoshop and just make more thumbnails. And hopefully by the time you get to like your 4th thumbnail that you made, you have something that you really like. You don't want to just stop here. You want to like go and push the boundaries so that you can make something cool like this one. I really love this full bloom thumbnail because it has like the digital sort of feel to it, and it's about full bloom and about flowering as a coming of age as a group, as a Smash group. And I feel like the digital sort of stuff in the background is kind of like, it has a bloom effect to it, but it's very different. It's not like a flower, you know. So we've reached the end of this tutorial, and I hope the things that I've shown you are conducive in helping you make your own thumbnail for your Smash group. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video and taking the time to just help yourself and learning how to use a software program that maybe a lot of people don't know how to use, or something that you might not have known how to use prior to this video. There's going to be more videos coming out in regards to how to make Smash production content, so be on the lookout for that. Thanks once again, and I'll see you guys later.